Tara, would you like to bring up some questions?
Sure, that would be wonderful. And I'm just so moved, as I'm sure everyone listening is, by all that you've shared so far. It's just been incredibly inspiring. So we have most recently a question of, is it all just luck? So we have someone named Not One. Can you explain the fact that it's all luck for a mother and Tam to be given the capacity to understand the course, to practice the course, and to commit yourself to the course? They have parents who had 9 children and they were not introduced to the course, and they won't have the opportunity. It's all luck. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, you're looking at me. Oh, of course you're looking at me. I'm right here. I would say luck has nothing to do with it whatsoever. I think it has to do with guidance. I think it has to do with our particular plan that we have been given by the Holy Spirit for our own edification, learning, and awakening. And whether you're a family of 9 or 12 or 1, whether you're raised by grandparents or any kinds of other parents, the combinations we have, all which are valid and beautiful today, it isn't luck. Asking. And I would say the one thing that my daughter came in seeming to know better than I, and the one thing that I was developing from the time I was a child, was the familiarity with the inner voice. So don't even think about luck, but think about the Holy Spirit, Jesus, whatever it is that feels right to you to turn to when you have a question like that. Tam?
I would agree with that. And also when we talk, I can only speak for my life in this. It felt so orchestrated that you call it luck, but there were moments where I very much felt like it was bad luck and not good luck. It was not a conscious, ego-driven desire or choice to be doing this path until I truly surrendered to it and understood it in a different way. That it's fantastic, but I don't think, I agree with my mother that luck isn't quite it. And it says in the course itself, you quote it right for me, Mom, but only the time you take, wait, give me the quote, Mom.
Free will means only the time that you take it, right? We're voluntarily studying A Course in Miracles, but it's also part of our plan. We're going to have it no matter what, and it might not be called A Course in Miracles. It may be called something else, but it's going to be the same. Only the time you take it is voluntary.
We have another question that I wonder if you could speak to. Deval Doshi is joining us, and he's asking, is it possible to discipline and remind our children of their choices through the course? So they're talking about, they have a daughter who's 11 years old, is adopted, and she's having issues with belonging and doesn't believe in God or anything good. So she doesn't talk much to the brothers and just keeps to herself in her room. How do I help her heal in a way that it embodies the principles of the Course?
Tam, you want to take that? You've got a kid, 21.
Is it possible to discipline them through the Course?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say discipline yourself through the Course. It's your modeling that she will feel. And every time we project outside that the outside person is broken and unhealed, we are living in that world instead of seeing her as perfect and seeing you as projecting that problem onto her as well, even though you're seeing it. Practice the Course yourself and be that love yourself. I do believe that she will gravitate much more to that than to you disciplining her with certain course words or principles. So what would you say, Mother? What
about grandsons, Judy? Do you need to discipline any of your grandchildren?
I don't need to discipline them. They're perfect. It's luck. No. In fact, I think I must be a very slow learner because I've had these wonderful people throughout my life just appear. I can't tell you how or why. A massage therapist, a vendor on the street that I got in a conversation with once, where they give me these wonderful words of wisdom that are coming through their heart. And it all is the same thing. Love them, love them, love them. Don't judge them, don't judge them, don't judge them. Accept who they are and what they're showing you, because that is not really what you're seeing. Projection makes perception. That is not really what you're projecting, and what you're seeing is not who they are. So if you can look at anyone in your life, and of course, certainly your daughter, a doctor or not, and say to yourself, I choose to see her perfection. All I want to see is her holiness. Please, God, please, Holy Spirit, please, Jesus, help me see her as perfect. That's what I need to do. And then you don't have any investment whatsoever in her changing this way or that way or that way, but you have given her the greatest gift a parent can give to a child.
And that is not to say that if she reaches out to you for help or for asking about these principles, that you don't share them with her.
It's wonderful. We have a different form of a question from Sharon Abreu. Hi, Judy and Tam. What's next for bringing the course to more of the world?
Well, I can probably address that first. What's next for us is always what we're being told in guidance. And most of the time, we don't know what's next at all, because there really isn't next if we're trying to dwell in the moment. However, when there is something for us to respond to, believe me, we get it. Here we are using Zoom as a tool for the first time to discuss with other people A Course in Miracles. So that was next from a few months ago. What's next for tomorrow? We don't know. We're still actively translating A Course in Miracles, with 2 translations just coming on board now, and in very, very exciting languages to me, because we didn't have them and we didn't know if we ever would. We always allow the translators to come forth. We do not go out there and seek them. We don't know who they should be. We don't know how people's training. It isn't just someone who's professionally a good translator and has studied this, but it has to be someone who is totally committed to the course and who understands it. When Ken was alive, Ken Wapnick, he did a beautiful job as teacher of the translators. Recently, a wonderful woman has joined us in that role. Bob Rosenthal has taken over my husband Whit's role as managing the translations and is doing a superb job of that. When I say a good job, it means we're all happy. Everyone is getting along. Everyone is enjoying it and honoring each other. So we're doing more of same, but as we are guided to participate in other ventures, we'll know that because we'll know the guidance.
I would like to add that what's next is a deeper evolution of internally within the Foundation for Inner Peace itself, practicing the principles of the Course, particularly and really only in extending love. And so we would like, in all sorts of ways, including this call, to just extend love in this illusion, through the illusion, to remind us that it is all one and the Course is one way. And if people are gravitating to A Course in Miracles, we would just like it to continue word of mouth and in any way possible for those who want it. Look, I didn't want it for all these years. It seemed to want me. And it still came and found its way into my heart and my way of being. So I would like to make it available as much as possible to anyone who it could help change their perception from fear to love. And that's all. That's what's next continually in whatever way it presents itself to us.
I think this beautifully follows on another question of whether, Tam and Judy, you could say more about how asking plays a role in your lives. And they say, thanks for this time correction.
How asking plays a role. Asking is the number one role. What we turn to in everything. For me, as simple as getting up in the morning and asking what I should wear. I don't make any decisions by myself, no matter how trite, because it's my practice. I'll save it for big decisions or for worrisome situations. That's not practice. That's just pulling it out when you need it. But the practice is everything. You know, do I indeed go today to see someone who is asking me to see her or him? Or do I do it tomorrow? Or do I do it on the telephone? All of it is the asking. Even what I should eat in the morning is an asking. That is about as trite a thought as you can have, what you should eat. But it still is the practice of it. And if we stay totally aware of what we are asked to do to accept the atonement for ourselves, the practice is what helps us achieve it. I just could not imagine at this point in my life, and so there are 44 years, I couldn't imagine not asking all the time. It's my comfort zone.
And for me, I would say I'm often told more than I ask. It's the more I'm in alignment with a surrendering of the ego to that, it's just an awareness of what to do next, including, you know, reaching for a glass of water, that the understanding it is all taken care of and orchestrated. But within that, with what is so beautiful about being in community with a group of people moving this foundation together, and we do work together, even though there are roles and titles, they're silly. In that, when we each have a different point of view coming through ego, we sit together and ask, and there isn't a time ever that I have seen, including watching my mother with her ex-husband and her current husband, who isn't here any longer, but he is. There isn't a time where everyone gets the same answer. And they might get it in a different personality form, but we all recognize it's the same answer. And so asking in community in particular is incredibly important. And before we ask, we turn it over and we surrender it to love instead of our egos. But a lot of the time we give our ego playtime so that we can talk at each other, tell each other what we each feel, blah, 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 and then we ask, and it's like, joke's on us, guess what? And it's very often a totally different answer than what we would expect. And one person might get it in the form of an image, and another person might get it in the form of a song. Another person might get a direct words, but it's all the same answer. So I hope that's helpful.
I think that was beautiful. And just to take it to another iteration, Metha Singleton asked, Tam, can you speak more about seeing and being and the difference in your experience? I mean, I think you've touched on this a little bit already since that question's been typed out, but a few more words would be really helpful.
Yes, I can tell you what it is for me. And that's the only place I can say, and I believe in everyone listening to their own authority and not what it is for someone else to dictate that what would be for you. But for me, the sight that I had, as I said, was how someone can remove their own blocks to love. But just that itself brings back that place where I began the story of being a 3-year-old and saying, you know, oh, that's what they do here. They tell stories. It wasn't about lying. It was tell stories. So for me to see someone who is in pain and I see how I can help them out of that pain, that's still a story. And when I start to listen to what is described as Christ's vision, and in my story of it, to be able to explain this to you, for me and my interpretation of it, if I saw a person who was crippled and could not walk, my way would be to go in and see what psychological reasons, what happened in their lives, would traumatize their cellular body into being crippled. Let's just say they weren't born that way, because then you could go to past lives, whatever. And I would hold that person, whether physically or in my being, to have the compassion for that experience, and then see them as wholly healed. That's seeing for me. It was seeing their story and relating to that story, and how could I help heal that story. Whereas Christ's vision would be more like just seeing the total truth, and, you know, Jesus saying, walk. There is no story here. You are perfect, walk. And that's where the miracle, you know, can really happen, because I'm not getting distracted by the story, but really seeing the perfection in everybody from that place of being love rather than interpreting love. And I don't know if that's helpful, but it's the best way that I can articulate it.
I think that was beautiful and very well said. One other question is, the practice of the Course seems like a fractal. So I change, so changes the world. Do I have this right? Gail Johnson Morris asks.
I know my mother's going to answer this, so I just want to say one thing again. Ask yourself if you have it right. Whatever we say really doesn't matter, but ask yourself first, and then my mother can give a brilliant answer.
I don't think I have an answer past that. No, there are so many different levels of how we see this world when the Course tells us it is totally illusionary. Now, it doesn't mean we instantly disappear from the world, and it doesn't mean the world disappears from us. In fact, when I read the line in the Course, every thought of love saves hundreds of thousands of years, I was with Helen and Bill and Ken that day, and I yelped. And I said, I don't like that. And Helen said, I didn't either, and I changed it to tens of thousands, but he made me put it back. So none of us like that. Well, that was years ago. Today, I feel much better about it. I realize in an instant, in a holy instant, we can see the truth, be the truth, feel the truth in an instant. But it seems to me that the way we have set this up in this dream called life is that we take time to remember and to practice our lessons. Therefore, the fractal idea is a pretty good one, and it's a good analogy, but is it true? That's what we have to ask ourselves. That's what we go inside and ask. Is it true?
I can say from my experience, personally, for me, that I notice that each time I come back to a paragraph, a sentence, a lesson in the Course, it has a different meaning. And I would characterize it as a deeper meaning because it changes me as I take it in and then go back and look at it. And that's why I refer to it as a living document, because its words are not static there. They change with my own understanding and level of understanding.
This is wonderful. So we just have a few more minutes left, and we're starting a new tradition of ending these virtual, time-centered, timeless gatherings with a moment of silence and meditation together collectively. But before we do so, Omar had a question. God is not complete without you. I believe this was said somewhere in the Course. My question is that the Course is silent when it comes to afterlife. Why do you think that is?
Well, I would love to respond in the way that just came to me as I was hearing the question. We know the Course talks about the happy dream. It devotes a lot of sentences to the happy dream. If we go through our process of correction of the mistake that we have made in seeing ourselves separate from each other and from God, then we have the opportunity to deepen at the same time our awareness of forgiveness, because that is correction, and of love. We reach the happy dream, we're told God himself takes the final step. That frees me in reading that so much, because I don't have to come up with a story of what is afterlife, or what is it like next time, or do we indeed have reincarnation? As long as we're living in a dream, we can probably have many consecutive dreams. Maybe they're all at once, who knows? My husband died a year ago, and I had very powerful experiences of him, and still am having powerful experiences of him, as varied as I could possibly imagine. Did I make them all up? Is there life after death? Are we connected? That's the wonderful mystery, and God himself takes the final step. God himself takes the next step. We are in God's hands, and then we'll know. But first, we accept the atonement for ourselves.
And I just want to add to that, because I know we're also concluding here, that the dance in partnership between my mother and me, between maybe you and your children, or your parents, or your grandparents, or your great-grandparents, there does come that time, if you are lucky enough, or it's orchestrated, that you do not outlive your children, that the love transcends that. And the people in my life who have passed on, the love that is left becomes that story's interpretation, and that is another part of the afterlife. And I am hoping to get grounded enough in that, so that as my mother departs, that fills up inside me as well, in that continuation.
We say the end as I weep. Thank you, honey.
Yes, and I do always say, going back to talking about luck, I did win the lottery of mothers. And that was, you could call it luck, because it certainly was like winning the lottery. So thank you for always supporting me.
Ditto.
And especially as I haven't always supported you. So
thank God. Oh.
But I have.
I love you, darling.
Same, Mom.
How beautiful. On this wonderful note, let's take a few moments, and Tam, I will let you bring us to conclusion.
I thought I did.
No, with your gong.
Oh, okay. This is something that my mother doesn't know about, that I am now introducing into all of our future meetings, and maybe not in the Zooms, but it is something introduced to me this weekend at a conference, and it is this bell here, which bowl, singing Tibetan bowl. And what happened was, when people would get together and talk in a group, if anyone felt like the talk moved out of the place of heart, someone could come to the middle of the circle and gong the bell, and everyone would have to be quiet until the bowl stopped its sound. And even if you had a moment just in yourself where you lost heart, you could go up and gong the bell. So I didn't know I was going to be doing this now, but we're all going to join in silence for a moment and make sure that we are continuing from this place of heart. So